Hello everybody and welcome to Millersburg, Indiana. My name is Josh the RV Nerd. I'm from Haylett RV, which is located not too far from here. We're a fairly local dealer to the heart of the RV industry, and today we are at the home of the Rockwood and Flagstaff division of Forest River. Now this is part 3 of a multi-part series. If you didn't see parts 1 and 2, I'll leave links to those down in the video description. I definitely recommend you see those because a lot of what we see today will be, I'll have kind of assumed that you've seen that, and this is sort of building on that. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Rockwood Geo Pro plant. Or you could actually just as easily call this the Flagstaff E-Pro plant. If you weren't aware, and again, if you didn't catch those previous videos, Rockwood and Flagstaff are quite literally the same trailer. Like, you take a look at this thing before the graphics go on, they're absolutely identical. It truly is just the decals that make the difference. Do you like orange or do you like green? We happen to sell orange at Haylett RV. Neither is superior to the other. It's all subjective and in the eye of the beholder. Now, at the time of this filming, public tours are not available. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get down here, as a courtesy not just to our customers, but to all the different people who might be looking out there who are having a hard time finding one of these. Like, at the time of this filming, the backlog for Geo Pros and E-Pros is just absolutely legendary, so it can be hard to get out there and see one in person. Now, I was granted a special exemption to come down here to capture this footage today, and you'll notice that when we're in the factory, I'll be taking all the normal proper safety precautions so the lawyers of Berkshire Hathaway don't come after me. Now, this I thought was absolutely astounding to me. This product was introduced in 2017, and by September of 2018, they had made 5,000 of them. Then you look to the left, and only a year later, they had more than doubled that. The popularity of this product it's unlike anything I think I've ever seen. Now, it's the end of the production day for most of the team down here, and what they do is they get themselves to stop points where they make sure that every station ends at the same place that it began the day before. That way, when the workers come in the morning, they know exactly where to pick up where they left off. There's no confusion about what needs to be done, what was wired, what wasn't wired. A lot of factories do that. It's just not something that you usually see or you get to hear about. We are actually going to start right here from the raw chassis and work all the way up through the final finished product. And we're actually in for a little bit of a treat today. They're just changing over production runs from one model into the 19 FB Geo Pro. That is a front bed rear toy hauler. We've got a full video of that one for you if you would like to see it. But this is the only Geo Pro that comes with that really cool remote control, self-powered basically air ride system. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. Stay tuned for that in just a minute. So the chassis comes in, the running gear that we just saw is attached, and then it comes over here to the floor station. Now, at their stop point, the floor is already put on. This is where their floors are built and jigged, basically. Now, one of the things I was really excited about to show you on this video tour are the floors and the roofing of a Geo Pro. That is actually a floor skeleton over there. You see, it's an all tubular aluminum skeleton like we're looking at right here. That is the same thing that you're going to find on Mini Lite, ultralite, Signature, every Rockwood, every Flagstaff. They are built the same, basically. The only thing that changes a little bit is their size. Now, one of the questions people have, because the Geo Pro is also the only of the Rockwood travel trailers and fifth wheels that does not have an enclosed underbelly, is it just a raw exposed floor underneath? And no, it absolutely is not. The first thing that actually goes down is this material right here. It's called Darko. It's a woven, I think, polypropylene plastic. Basically, it's a woven plastic blanket. It allows a significant amount of shielding from like water splash and dirt and debris from underneath, so that you're not, pelting everything inside your floor, and you're not exposing the floor directly to any sort of exterior influences like water. Then we have a layer of residential batten insulation that goes down. This is the only place in a Rockwood RV that you will find batten insulation used. Every single other thing they do is laminated and has a block foam insulation core to it. Just like the bigger ones, anywhere that they need to screw into it, whether this is where the chassis is going to marry up to the floor or where you're going to screw something down into the floor, it will always be stuffed with a lightweight wood so that that aluminum tubing doesn't crimp, so that the floor retains its structural integrity, everything stays square, and it doesn't get crushed. Now, on top of that, one of the things that is less obvious, but I do still have a little bit of an opportunity to show you over here, a very common misconception with Geo Pro is that they have an OSB floor. They do not. This has the same 5/8 floor decking that you have in a giant Rockwood signature fifth wheel. They're doing the same things the same way every single time across this family, and it's that consistency that I really like, and that is something that you just don't see from every brand. Usually they build them different, the little ones versus the big ones. Rockwood just does it one way all day, every day. And like I said, we come back to the air ride system right here. First of all Geo Pros ride on what is optional on a Mini Lite. That is what they would call the sport tire and wheel package. It's a 15-inch wheel with a Westlake radial right there. You see that cool looking knobby tire. It just the other thing that all Geo Pros come with is a 2 5/8 lift, basically, to give them some additional ground clearance. That used to be an optional thing. So many people liked it, they just standardized it. And that's another thing I like about Rockwood. What people are looking for, they just give the people what they want effectively. But this right here is, again, exclusive to the 19 FBTH system. You see, it's an actual, like, airbag air ride system. And I don't know if you've ever hauled RVs with or without, there is no comparison. This is one of the smoothest, best handling systems you can find out there. Now, if you want to, what you can do is you can come over here with an air compressor and you can add or subtract air so that you can get yourself right here into that, it says, you know, recommended towing zone, red, yellow, green, very simple. But you don't even have to do that much. This RV has a built-in onboard compressor with a remote control so that you can literally just grab what looks like a little key fob and add and subtract air into those airbags as you need to. Now, what's cool about that is you can soften the ride of this a little bit if it is riding down the road empty. You can stiffen up the ride of this a little bit, like if you've got a motorcycle or something loaded in here, something heavy. Another thing you can do with this is you can let the air out of those airbags to bring down the tail of the RV to ease that angle of attack for easier loading, which is something most toy haulers just simply can't do. But other than that one floor plan, the 19 FBTH toy hauler, this is what everything's going to ride on right here. You see that 2 5/8 axle riser kit. Again, we've got the same 15-inch Westlake radials, well, 15-inch wheels plus the Westlake radials, just for clarity here. Now, every single Geo Pro, just like Mini Lite, ultralite, and Signature, they all contain that tire pressure monitoring system as well. So there's another layer of protection and peace of mind that you get to enjoy. Now, I always kind of like to play a little bit of a game of guess that floor plan, and we'll see if you can figure this one out. I'll actually give you a hint. Sadly, we are looking at the very last run. This model is no longer going to be produced, so we have, I guess, cataloged evidence that it was produced at one point. We've got a front bed, a driver's side bathroom, passenger side kitchen straight across from that, and then what would come on the back over here would actually be a dinette. And if that's not enough for you to figure it out, I can only tell you that basically it's the 19 RD Geo Pro. You might notice too, the walls start going up on the inside. That's a thing that if you've never seen RV production, you don't realize. It's very normal, but the exterior walls aren't up yet to attach things to, so interior partition design walls start coming into place. Now, if there's one thing Rockwood is big into, it's putting aluminum in their construction. But you might have noticed those wall partitions were wood skeleton. So why one material in one place and the other material in the other one? Long story short, anything that's going to be deemed structural or load-bearing, or you might sit or sleep on it, you're putting weight on it, that will be made with a fully welded all aluminum cage. So when we're looking at something like this right here, these walls are not what in a house we call load-bearing walls. These are just visual partitions, but something I want to show you here, because this is the kind of stuff when the skins go up, you can't see it. Notice how like the top part of that wall, it's still plywood. They are impressive about using what I call prime materials at every opportunity that they have in these. Case in point, just one station later, you can see that they're really starting to run the wiring. Right now, not everything is done, not everything is run as organized, but where they are running out, notice the actual, like, just as simple as it sounds, the zip tying together, the little elbow joints for all of the plumbing so that everything stays in the same place. It doesn't jiggle around, it doesn't get tangled, it doesn't get caught. Those extra little things could keep you out of a repair center. But even, this is the base under the refrigerator. Even that is a plywood material. Everything in this is what I call a prime material, not secondary, not scrap. Even little anchor points like behind the stove top right here. So that's the sink. The stove would be right here when we're done with it. You notice how even those are a purpose used plywood. They're not just some extra thing that they had laying around in a garbage hopper somewhere. Now they have a little bit of a plumbing shop up top here, and I touched on this briefly in our Mini Lite tour, so I'll make it quick, but long story short, they try to pre-assemble all these things as much as they can so that when it does come down here to the actual production line, the laborer at the time only has two things they need to attach, the front and the back, and they all have proper connection points. They don't have to sit there, grab a tool out of their pocket, re-crimp it, all that kind of stuff. Everything is done by professionals up top so that it can be quickly installed down here on the production line. Now, a couple other little things. I've talked about Rockwood's constant process of improvement. Take a look at this. This is the old sink from the Geo Pros. Just by perfect happenstance, I happen to have one here. It is tiny. You could barely fit your hands into it. And that is what they're using now. They like tripled the size of the sink. You could actually get some little, like, say, saucepans and some things in there. And they listen to people. That people's number one complaint was, hey, I can't even wash my hands in the sink. They said, no problem, we're gonna fix that. Another thing I noticed here is there were limited reports where occasionally folks had mentioned that the flooring screws were kind of coming loose from the outriggers. So that's the chassis. This is the outrigger. Some people call it the ear that actually supports the end of the sidewall. So Rockwood said, no problem. We're going to make sure that we double nut everything so that we just never have that problem. Even though it was rare, we don't want it to happen at all. Now at each station, you'll see that each worker has a small number of tasks that they perform. By repeating the same tasks all day, every day, they get better at them, they get faster at them, and that actually helps them, maintain what you see out of Rockwood production, always producing the same thing. But this is something I don't know that Rockwood was necessarily the first one to use, but man, they sure made it popular. The AquaView Shower Miser Water Reclaiming System. So when you are boondocking, you've only got the water that's in your tanks. You rarely have opportunities for other water. So when you're taking a shower, which is what this is our shower assembly, you flip that little switch right there, it will reroute the water back into your fresh holding tank so it's not getting lost. Now what you can do is while you're waiting for your water to heat up, you will see this blue piece right here. It will actually, it's like a color changer. Remember those color changing shirts like in the 80s and 90s, you touch them with your hand? What were they called? Hyper print, something or other. Somebody tell me what those shirts were called. I can't remember. But this will turn from blue to white when the water hits 92 degrees, which is a pretty common shower temperature, so that you're not sitting there wasting water from your fresh tank down to your gray tank that you just otherwise totally lose out on. Right after here, we start getting into sidewalls, and we can't talk about Rockwood Geo Pro construction without talking about Azdel. That was the first place that you saw Rockwood using Azdel. And actually, what's funny is we are a charter Geo Pro dealer at Haylett RV, and I had been through the production line. I had seen the Azdel here in the walls, and if you notice, it is double Azdel. It's Azdel on the inside and outside. It's not Luan and Azdel, it's just double Azdel. Rockwood either does all or nothing in that regard. All Rus, Geos, and Mini Lites all have the double Azdel wall construction to keep that weight down. Not only that, but the extra benefits of Azdel, it is a totally itself a waterproof material because it's not water-starved wood. It completely repels water. Additionally, it has a little bit more sound dampening quality. I have heard that it can, it's a little bit better at sun reflection, heat or cold retention, as it were, to give you a more comfortable experience. Now, if you notice, you actually see the wall, but like there's this extra thing. That all gets trimmed and routed off once it hits the, goes onto the RV itself. That way, the actual wall construction itself isn't getting clanged and banged around effectively. Now this is all glued and pressed together. Rockwood laminates, again, all of their construction with the exception of the floors. So you might look at this and go, wait a minute, Jack, you told me this thing's all aluminum. Why don't I see any of it? Well, there's a couple places that you can, and there's a couple places they don't need to. Anywhere that is going to be a structural flex point, they will put an aluminum perimeter in. Anywhere, but typically Geo Pros are so small, you don't see a lot of those in the sidewalls. You start seeing more of them as you go up into the Big Brother Mini Lite. However, there are still going to be aluminum studs run on either side of a window structure or a cut or a gap or whatever you want to call it here. The other thing is you can always see aluminum structure like right down here. And just like I showed you in the floor, anywhere that they're going to like screw into it and lag into it, they will go ahead and stuff it with that lightweight wood right there, just so that the air-powered screw guns that are very, very powerful here that the laborers use, it doesn't crimp and crush that, it doesn't cause the whole wall to pop out of square, and it keeps everything stable and everything consistent. Now, a couple of the key points here. A lot of times when you ask somebody, is that RV laminated or not, they very often refer to only the sidewalls, but that's not the case again on a Rockwood. The rear wall and the front walls are built effectively the exact same way. The rear wall on this is the exact same 1.5 inch laminated wall that you have on the sides. Similarly, the front wall of these is also laminated, and I really like to point that out because what a lot of people don't realize is they see that nose cap that all the Geo Pros have, and they usually when a manufacturer has a nose cap, it's just a like skeleton construction underneath. It's not still a full laminated wall like you see here. Now you're also getting to see how they run a radiant barrier all the way up the front of this nose, up to the nose cap across that. So you're getting the consistency of the insulation of the front laminated wall along with the reflectivity of the radiant barrier here, so that if you're parked facing the sunshine, you're not as likely to be, cooked like an ant under a magnifying glass. And if you notice, it does run all the way down behind the diamond plate. Now, the roof of these is something I'm going to spend some time on. I think this is very special. It's very different from anything I've ever seen at any other manufacturer. This is the roof over here before it goes on. So you can see that it is laminated. It is all aluminum constructed. And what's really interesting here is Rockwood's one of the only manufacturers that figured out a way that they can effectively laminate on a curve. You notice how it has that radius arc and bend right there. That's not some camera magic that I'm putting together. The trick is a laminated radius, you can only get about 2.5 inches on it before the materials kind of start to stress too much that it becomes unreliable. So Rockwood said, hold on, what if we make two 2.5 inch laminated sections to give our Geo Pros a very aggressively vaulted roofing to keep them lighter weight, but to make them feel nice and big inside. And that's actually what you're looking at. This is section 1, this is section 2. And again, where they're going to screw them together, they will stuff that with the wood so it doesn't crush everything down. Because you notice there's that seam that goes right down the center of the Geo Pro roofing. That is where the two laminated aluminum sections are actually being hooked together, and then they put a nice piece of trim over that to cover that up. Now, once the roof is mounted and secured in place, which actually happened a couple rounds ago, the facility manager actually did grant me the ability to come up here on the scaffolding. They don't normally do that. So once again, say thank you to Rockwood, say thank you to guys like Mr. Haylett, who allowed me to get out of the office today to get this stuff done. This is where they start routing out holes for things like our skylights, our power vent fan, our air conditioner, all the little things that need to go through the roofing. Now, a couple key things I want to point out here. When you have a laminated roof, there's not just a whole truckload of staples and screws and fasteners that when this thing is a rolling earthquake going down the road, they can't start working their way up under your roof membrane. So basically, it's very hard for anything to get under this roof skin to puncture it. It's one more just quality, longevity, peace of mind thing you have. And there's a couple other things here I really want to show you. First of all, when the nose caps come on, you see this right here? This is the end of the roof. Look at how much over, I call it a sleeve over nose cap. It rides, that nose cap goes like, 6 to 9 inches here onto the roofing itself. And you're moving it from a point of high stress. You're taking that seam, which is one of the most vulnerable points on the RV, and you're moving it back to an area of low stress. And that is just one of a lot of things that they're doing on this to help make sure that water stays out of it and you just stay having a good time. Now, people like to talk about insulation and ask about insulation and all kinds of things on that. If you take a look at this right here, think of it, compare this to like a styrofoam coffee cup. Now, a styrofoam coffee cup is like what? That thin, and this is like that thick right there. Like once I get close, that's actually pretty accurate versus a styrofoam cup that's like that thin. So imagine that you've got, say, like a 2 inch up to a 3.5 inch coffee cup above your head. You have 1.5 inch coffee cups on the sidewall. So you've got that full batten insulated floor. This is a product that the furnace, the air conditioner that are on it, they are very effective for the intended seasons of this RV. Now, is it intended to be used in the Arctic tundra with the heater running? Not necessarily. But another thing I want to show you here is, like, this is where the air conditioner is going to go. Notice how any little gap that would be open and exposed, they fill it with that foam stuff right there, just to make sure there's not air gaps where condensation can build up. They don't want you building a mold farm in your roof, people. And here's just a real quick look at them. Now, I get on the roofing of all of our Geo Pros at Haylett RV whenever the weather permits me, but it is cool to get to see the before and after with that low profile air conditioner. Notice how it does not stick up above the max air vent fan. That's one of the cool things on these. They have a much lower overall exterior clearance area. What that's going to allow you to do is to be able to go under more tree branches, to park it inside more barns and more garages. Right there you see that 190 watt roof solar panel. That is something that Geo Pro is one of the very first brands that standardized a lot of solar use, and you can see it all the way down the line right there. And that goes hand in hand with their 12 volt refrigerators, I think. Not to mention a 1000 watt inverter coming standard on all these. And if you need more off-grid capability, it is both side solar prepped, and you can get an additional 190 watt roof panel from the factory level or added aftermarket without needing to change a single other piece of equipment. Now from here, you don't see a lot happening on the outside of the RV. You will see some windows, doors, you see speakers, fixtures. Again, each station has a couple little tasks like, you know, the marker lights, the rear view camera prep. Those all start going in one at a time or two at a time or whatever at each station as we run down the line here. That's actually something that surprised me about this plant. It has more individual workstations than it used to, so that each laborer has the ability to focus on more individual tasks and not run around like crazy so much worrying about forgetting things. Like you see baggage doors going on. You start to see things like the magnet holdbacks, the fender trim really kind of coming into play here. It's really starting to take shape, and by the time it hits that door right there, the exterior is pretty much done, and then it rolls over to the interior side. Now, as we come around to the other side of the building here, the other half of the interior production, basically, this is where appliances start going in, and what we're looking at right here, I think it's 5.3 total foot of refrigerator, freezer, separated 12 volt compressor storage right here. This is a rather unconventional refrigerator. You don't see a lot of manufacturers use this. There's a reason that they do it. It is big enough for a small trailer like a Geo Pro without being too large where they have to rearrange everything. It still allows them to position things like a microwave directly above it, which is very advantageous for floor plan reasons. And the size of it, it is not the power hog that some of these other things can be. So I get that there are other 12 volt refrigerators out there that have potentially twice the capacity, but they're also going to have significantly more power draw. And that was one of the considerations that they really had with these. They wanted to make sure that you could spend as much time as you wanted boondocking, where, you know, the factory 190 watt package is great. You can double that to go to 380. You can also pair up, again, a portable exterior solar package. So if you want to pretty much run that refrigerator all you want, virtually wherever you want, a Geo Pro is very capable of doing that. Now, there might be a couple limitations based on weather and usage. There's always variables in there, but there's not many manufacturers that come that close from the factory level of complete full fridge use as much as you want wherever you want. Also, I like the little shields that they ship on these just to make sure the guy walking through this tool belt doesn't ding it up. So again, as it comes over here to the interior side, the exterior's done. It's sealed up. You know, there's no worries about anything like that. What you start seeing is things like the graphics come on very quickly. Like they have one main graphic station right here, which the people who do that work, you heard me in my previous two videos just talk about it. I cannot believe how consistent, and they basically freehand all this. It's just mind-boggling how good they are at it effectively. But right here also, so the graphics come on, and then you see the awning go on, and at that point, the exterior is done, and we just start doing stuff inside. Now, as they go through these stations, it might be a little noisy right now because they're actively on the production line pre-checking, pre-testing every single thing in these. Like every appliance, every water line gets pressure tested, every gas line gets pressure tested. 100% of every single Rockwood fifth wheel and travel trailer, there we go. I had to shake some sense back into my head. Every single appliance, every water line, every fitting effectively is checked every single time in these things. Now backing up actually a little bit, I mentioned how everything gets checked out. This is one of several stations where that actually happens. What you're looking at over here, they actually go through every single unit. They will pressurize the water lines. They will pressurize the gas lines. They will run water through it. They will check the holding tanks. They will make sure that everything is in good working order. That's why there's always a little bit of water on the floor here. But before these things leave, they have every single Rockwood travel trailer and fifth wheel has been water, gas, and electric checked at least one time completely, and several are then randomly screened a few more times. And here's a little info on that. Now, something you didn't get to see in our previous tours is that Rockwood is actually one of the only brands that they have not just third-party, total blind taste tests, basically, where random units that are produced are pulled off the production line every day and sent to a totally independent third party for inspection and reviews and ratings, and Forest River tracks that internally. But Rockwood is one of the only brands among Forest River that also does that process internally. They spend a little bit of extra money to have roughly about 3 units per production line randomly brought inside every single day and gone through with a fine-tooth comb to catch everything. One of the other things that I really like about this is if you've ever seen a lot of my videos, you know that like if there's a brand new model that first comes out, I tend to be a little shy on picking it up because I like to make sure that the factory has kind of ironed out all the kinks. I don't have that worry with Rockwood, because if they make a new model and they're running it today, they will take say like 15 of those instead of just 3, and they will just work out that new model all day, every day. The idea here is that they're doing extra layers of quality control above and beyond what they've already done on the production line to try to put out the very best possible product. And I tell you what, during this time of quarantine, some manufacturers have slipped, and Rockwood has absolutely defined themselves as, I feel, a gold standard product, to the tune that if I was looking for something I personally have the most confidence in purchasing, they're pretty much at the top of my personal list today, and I get to see a lot of things come through. Little stuff like this helps explain why they're coming in so clean and staying in the in your driveway and out of my service center. In, I think it was part 2, the Mini Lite plant tour, I mentioned how Rockwood and Flagstaff actually install their own windshields into their nose caps. Most manufacturers, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with this, they outsource that. They just buy a nose cap with a windshield already installed. And one of the things that they do in this plant is they install it themselves where they can monitor the cleanliness of the environment, the humidity, the temperature, to make sure that the adhesive that holds that actual automotive windshield, because it's not a window, it is a higher grade glass, it is a true windshield, to make sure that the adhesive cures properly. Now, it's not to say that there couldn't necessarily be a hiccup. I can only think of a small handful of all of the Rockwoods we've had historically at Haylett RV that ever had windshield challenges. But by doing it in-house, Rockwood has more data, more confidence, more accountability, so that if something is needed, they have more information that says, yep, here's what happened on that date. There's no finger pointing that says, nope, it's not our problem, you need to go after the nose cap company. We're just the guys who install the nose cap. If the windshield failed, it's not our fault. They do more things in-house and have more accountability than more brands. And we're about halfway through the interior finish process. You see that 12-volt TV DVD combo going in right there. The control panel, by the way, if you weren't aware, basically you can sync your phone to this. You can operate a lot of those systems in the RV straight off your phone. The appliances again start going into place, and remember, you have some different appliance options with this. You have the choice in most of your floor appliances, this not being one of them actually, of a standard microwave or a convection microwave. You also have the option in most floor plans, this not being one of them, of course, of a propane stove, a gas oven. That's the word I'm looking for. I got myself all screwed up there. And this shouldn't be the most difficult, but again, if we're playing a game of name that floor plan, can you tell me which one this is? Now, I mentioned how these have a walkable roof. A lot of campers have walkable roofing, but a lot of single axle campers don't give you a way to get up there. You have to get an like a portable ladder. And it's always better to have somebody hold those, but inevitably some idiot like me is gonna say, I'll do this real quick. And you try to just scramble up a ladder and make the Indiana Jones leap across the chasm to get onto the roof. I'm obviously exaggerating a little bit, but that is one of the things that always stuck out at me on Geo Pros, is that they have, well, they used to be optional, but now just a standard roof ladder so you can get up there. And again, with my walkthrough video tours that you see, you notice that even a 200-pound chubby dad bod like me can get up there and walk around. Another interesting thing on Geo Pro roofing, it's laminated, say like a Mini Lite or an Ultra or a Signature, but because it's a non-centralized air system, because this small box does not need central air, it means that there's actually thicker, like average roof decking below you. There's no spots where it has to get channeled and routed out for the air ducting to actually run through, which means it is actually, interestingly, one of the strongest roofs that this company produces. Now, if I learned anything watching Shrek, it's that if there's one thing everybody loves, it's parfaits. And if there's one thing I've learned camping, if there's one thing nobody likes, it's having a gummed up, fouled out, and shorted out 7-way pigtail on the front of their camper. And so that you don't have a gummed up, fouled out, shorted out 7-way pigtail in the front of your camper, down here they like to do what they call going the Millersburg extra mile. They add these little 7-way plug buddies and safety chain holders just so that all that stuff is not down in the muck and the mud and the blood of your campsite. Now, I don't know if you've seen some of my other videos, but not everybody always has the greatest level of respect for campsites or other people. Sometimes some people, whether accidentally or on purpose, will do things like dump some black water on campsites. I don't want my chains digging around in that dirt. I don't want, to touch that and then touch my face and get pink eye or anything like that. Now, at this point, we're very much at the end of the production line. They're going through doing some final fixes, some final cleaning. They'll take that protective screen off the refrigerator right there, but you notice that there's not furniture yet. Now, this is the 16TH. You've probably realized that by now from our previous Guess That Floor Plan game. So there's not as much furniture that goes in here, but regardless, the furniture and the soft goods at your Rockwood plants, they're always like the last thing to go in so that they have no opportunity really to get snagged, to get damaged. And then down below here, you see that big plate on the floor? Well, that is a scale. Every single trailer that comes out of this plant is individually scaled, because that is not something they actually have to do. And if you've kind of played along here, you caught on that there's a lot of things that they're doing at this plant they don't have to do. That Rockwood never does what they have to do. They always do what they want to do. They always do what they should do. They always go a little bit further. They are able to actually effectively estimate the weight of their trailers. They have to measure one when they first produce that floor plan, and then they can just estimate how much the rest are going to weigh based on the weight of the options that you might put into it. Now, I get that statistically that can get you pretty close, but when your towing safety is on the line, do you want to get pretty close? Or do you want to know exactly what's behind you? I want to know exactly what's behind me. I got my wife and my kid in the car. I've got my family and friends on the road. I've got other complete strangers and their family and friends in jeopardy potentially here. This, to me, seems like something every brand should have to do. And from there, she gets hitched up to a truck, taken to a shipping yard, then brought out to places like Haylett RV where you get to see it, or give us a call. We can ship it out to you. You can come collect it. Whatever works for you. And if you appreciate getting to see information like this, if you haven't done so already, please take a moment, leave us a couple comments. What did you like? Any questions you have? Is there something that you learned? Is there something that really surprised you? Fill me in. Like, what did you think about this? What other information can I get you on future factory tours so that I can always do the best job for you? If you appreciate efforts like this, make sure you hit the like button on the video. Hit that subscribe button to follow along if you haven't already. And folks, I can't tell you how much I appreciate just all your continued viewership and support. Thank you very much. So as always, take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy Haylett camping, everyone.